How we doing, everyone? Happy Thursday. Let's see if I can be helpful today with our second to last video. You know, this might be our last video. Holy Christmas, that's right, because the next time we meet, we'll meet in person. I'm sure you're sad about that. Not. Okay. So, really what I wanted to get to in this module, I mean, if you think about this Advertising Analytics 2.0 article, you know, we see this familiar theme that I've been talking about throughout the semester. That traditional television, traditional top-down media is starting to die. You know, we're seeing the lack of its effectiveness and its weaknesses. Now, I'll be perfectly direct that this article is not an easy... Actually, most of these articles are not necessarily easy articles. I mean, this is not something that many of us in this room could do off the shelf. As a matter of fact, if you noticed on this Analytics article 2.0, on page 63, down over here by the swim lanes, it mentions a UCLA marketing professor and market share co-founder, Professor Hassans. Well, earlier this semester, we read another complicated methodological metric article that was written by this professor. So, in sum, this professor is a quant jock. He is very, very good. And apparently he created a firm on the side. And he's probably educating the people that are working there, and the people that are working there are doing all the selling, and him and his doctoral students probably come in and do some tweaks on projects and stuff like that. Alright? So let's get through this article, 3.0, the self-tuning enterprise, don't let big data bury your brain. These are all very, very thematic. They all fit very well together. In sum, we're moving to the bottom-up world. We should use data to make better decisions. Really. The result of using big data analytics can be a moving towards programs that ultimately degrade the brand. Perhaps. Is there any risk caused by Analytics 2.0 that the companies may face? Well, this question, and you ask, is really this article. You know, and there is a push-pull between using analytics and analytics only and brand building. And Javier can talk more to this specifically. But we saw how Capital One had high successes, but they stopped building the brand. We saw how Time Magazine has successes, but they stopped building the brand. You know, if you want to think about it, right now, most of the advertising spending that we have, 80% of our budget is brand and 20% of it is analytics. Well, let's see if we can do some flipping on that. I don't know if I want to go 50-50. I might go 2/3 analytics and 1/3 brand. You know. How can a marketer best utilize the data collected on consumers to increase service and sales? Well, we had great examples, again, not in this article. In the other article, is it in the 3.0 article? No, it isn't in the 3.0 article. It's in the Self-Tuning Enterprise article. We have the 1, 2, 3, and 4. You know, we start on page... What's this? 82 and 83, the last two pages. Focus on streezing, good at adapting, build systems, fluidity, and feedback. I mean, but here's what I want you guys to know. In multiple articles across these data sets, we use the data to gain insights. The insights are not explicit truth. I have another question talking about historical data. We use the data to test an idea to then go forward. Okay? We don't use the data and say, yes, based on historical data, this is absolute truth, and then we go forward. No, we use historical data and say, we have an interesting effect here. Let's experiment with this interesting effect to see what we think we're going to get, see if we get it or not, tweak, and do it again, rinse, repeat, rinse, repeat, rinse, repeat. That's why we A/B test. That's why we collect the data. That's why we are a learning organization and we talk about this stuff cross-functionally so we can move quickly versus competition and competitors and consumers. What is the best approach to optimize the data collected on consumers' behaviors? The best approach to optimize. I think I just explained that. It's test and test and test. The historical data provides insights. You use this insights to then experiment going forward. It's not absolute truth. You're not going to put a $80 million advertising budget in jeopardy just because some historical data found some artifact. Okay? No. You're going to test to see if that artifact or that effect is in fact real. What are the best ways to quantify the relationship between advertising and sales? That's what this article is about. If you want to get all geeky on you, we can talk about regression. We can talk about multi-level linear modeling. We can talk about structural equation modeling. But we need to see the advertising and sales expenditure and relationship. Now, in top-down media, it's very difficult for us to get that numbers. In bottom-up media, it's not so difficult. Are there any good off-the-shelf analytic engines for small to medium businesses to track their marketing effort? Now, there isn't explicit engines, okay? There are software packages that help you do the analysis. When you get a chance, go to BuzzSumo. Yesterday I was at Today's Business. We were talking about stuff that's an ad agency, and they use. Let me hit pause. I'm going to look it up in a second. They use SpyFu. Sounds like an item from a Chinese menu, but they use SpyFu. And I also recommend BuzzSumo. Go to YouTube and look up BuzzSumo and watch those 2 to 5 minute videos and get a feel for that. Can you talk about Google Analytics and how and who some of the top companies out there are utilizing it? Well, this is a very, very big conversation. I highly, highly suggest if you're interested in this Web 2.0 stuff and everything we've been talking about this semester, that you go to Google and you get certified in analytics. In essence, analytics is a dashboard. Analytics is a way to track everything that you do, your campaigns. If you have a banner or you have some kind of a call to action on your website, well, analytics can track everything. The top domain, anything that's clickable on any page, and also the trail from one page to the next page to the next page to the next page. I mean, it is the equivalent of having digital fingerprints. Every company uses Google Analytics. And if they don't use Google Analytics, they use another package that does the exact same thing. How do you see Facebook leveraging mobile analytics? Do we see more banners and very popular on their apps? Yes, absolutely, positively, yes. Facebook Insights is Facebook's version of AdSense and AdWords, basically. It's Google AdSense, which is the banner ads, Google AdWords, which is the keywords that you see the ads for when you do search. Facebook Insights is the ability to do both desktop and mobile advertising. Also, Facebook Insights is how you put ads or do those sponsored stories in Instagram. And you do see more banners and more video ads popping up on their stuff. Can you discuss how a business can accurately gauge how it can track the effectiveness of digital media? Different media, radio, television, print, outdoor, if we assume there is value in interaction in each. Basically, how do you justify the ROI for any one medium if the effectiveness is gauged on the interaction? Well, you create an equation, okay? And the equation has an equal sign, and the equal sign equals the ROI. And then we put beta weights on each one of these, providing that we can get an accurate number for outdoor, an accurate number for print, an accurate number for television. Television, at least there's some numbers. Radio, there's some decent radio numbers. Digital, there are very, very good numbers for digital. So you would put a higher error term on this one, you would put a higher error term on this one you would put a lower error term, this one you would put a lower error term, this one you would put the lowest error term. But you would also weight these, meaning I would weight this one the highest, even though this one's the biggest spend. I would weight these two the lowest. And you create equations, and you test the ROI. And you use historical data to template the equation, the algorithm. And once you use the historical data to create the equation, you then use that equation/algorithm going forward. I mean, in one of your first classes here in the MBA program, you guys did basic regression. Well, guess what? This is in the spirit of basic regression analysis. How important is it to optimize advertising to sales market? I'm not sure how you're asking this question, but to me, I'm a big ROI guy. I do not like to spend my money unless I know I'm going to get what I'm going to get in return. It's also one of my main mantras when I do consulting stuff. What are the challenges in implementing of Analytics 2.0? Well, more than anything else, it takes time. This Analytics 2.0 or using big data or self-tuning or 3.0 or this is an ongoing thing. This is not a 1-month campaign to see how it's going to work out. This is something you collect data, you create an algorithm, you test going forward, A and B testing, you tweak, you collect data, you go forward, you see results, you tweak, you collect forward, That is the main challenge. The second main challenge, which was mentioned in at least 2 or 3 of these articles, is you got to get the corporation and the executives to believe in the system, to believe in learning, to believe in the analytics. You guys all saw that movie Moneyball, okay? The manager of the Oakland A's was in complete disbelief of the system for the majority of the season. What is an acceptable time frame for this project? Ooh, that's a great one. I really think it would take somewhere between 2 to 4 months to ramp up. I really do. I think it would take that long to format the data, to create an equation, and start seeing some ROI and some results from the get-go. And then from that 2 to 4 month window, I would probably spend another 2 to 4 months using new data with the equation. And then I would probably spend another 2 to 4 months tweaking on top of that. I mean, this is not a quick process. How can this apply to small business services, blue collar guys? Well, sure it can. If every one of these companies is using Angie's List, well, there's a data stream for you. If every one of these companies has a website, there's a data stream for you. If an electrician is buying AdWords and keywords on Google, you'll see how much return you get out of your monthly or weekly or daily spend with regards to, it's not expensive. It's time consuming, but it's not expensive. If not, small service businesses could just hire an ad agency. There are dozens of small little tech ad agencies out there that, you hire one of these people, you put them on retainer for $500 to $1,000 a month, and that's it. They can afford that. Out of the 3 broad activities in Analytics 2.0, which do you consider the most crucial? All right, let me double check. I'm going to take this question back. I'm not sure. I mean, basically, look at page 65. Okay? You know, when we talk about attribution, optimization, and allocation, attribution is the hardest. You know, I don't know if it's most crucial, but it's the hardest. You know, this is figuring out, given the market conditions, given these variables that are part of the equation, what are the weights and how impactful are they in the overall? You know, you'll probably spend more time in step 1 in attribution than you would in 2 and 3. Because 1 is where you start to work on the initial equation. When would you say the big jump was made from Analytics 1.0 to 2.0? Well, it depends on, you know, when was it started to talk about in the literature versus when did people start doing it? I mean, Google started messing around with this stuff at the beginning of the Web 2.0 era. You know, in 03, 04, 05, 06, 07, Google was doing this. Netflix was doing this. You know, these guys were way, way ahead. Amazon was way, way ahead. Okay? From Amazon and Google and Netflix, it started to integrate more. And basically, when storage was cheaper, when the knowledge it was out there, you know, as soon as we started talking about the cloud and big data, which we could say was like 09, 10, 11, and 12, right? That was the beginning of the MBAs of the world and the rest of the business press starting to figure out the shift from the 1.0 to the 2.0. Even though Google and even though Netflix were doing this, you know, for 5 or 6 years prior to that. Amazon, you know. Now, we're getting to a point where in 2015, 16, and 17, this is becoming table stakes. It's still not table stakes yet, but we're getting there. I mean, when you have a company like IBM who has a system called Watson, and Watson will come in, if you just give Watson the data, IBM will come in for 150 grand, 100, 250 grand, and in 3 to 6 weeks, Watson will run every permutation known to man and come up with results for you. All right, now we're getting to the point where it's not a commodity, but now it's like necessary in order to be effective. All right. Now, this author, who we've had multiple times this semester, Davenport, he's talking about Analytics 3.0. I don't think these two authors are talking about different things. I mean, Davenport, you know, 1.0 was followed by 2.0, generally speaking. 2.0, those are the bells and whistles. 2.0, you know, evolution. 1.0 was just business intelligence. 2.0 is when we had cheaper servers, cheaper software, we had cloud, we had, you know, cheaper computing power. But I don't think these authors are talking about anything different. I think they're both talking about the same effort. Just one saying, you know, the 2.0 error for this guy is the 3.0 error for this guy. All right? How does big data analytics affect company culture? It's viewed negatively in the sense that some companies are more focused on scraping data to find trends and make predictions on consumers as opposed to truly building relationships to understand customers. This is a cultural thing within firms, okay? I would hope that the firm was market-oriented. I would hope that the firm has a learning culture and cares about learning. I would hope that the firm has incredibly strong cross-functional intercommunication. Because if they're market-oriented and they have a learning culture and they're strong inter-firm communication, then information coming out of a 2.0, 3.0 analytics would diffuse rapidly and impactfully across silos. But, I think all three of these articles, but particularly this one, said you need a C-suite executive. You need someone from the top. Where are we at? Did they say this? Chief analytics officers, cross-disciplinary data teams. I'm on page 71. No, 70. Data analytics is highly dependent on historical data. Can this pose an issue to the accuracy of predictions since future action... Okay. This was the question that I already answered earlier. We don't treat historical data as absolute truth. We use historical data to find effects that we then test those effects with live data. That's what we do. If you use historical data as absolute truth, there are multiple errors statistically that will arise. You just can't do it. It won't be that accurate. Since the strength of technology doubles approximately every 2 years, okay, it's rapid. Will some companies that are falling behind need to leapfrog from one period of analytics to the most recent one to stay afloat? In theory, I understand what you're saying. But conceptually, you have to understand how difficult it would be to leapfrog. They are falling behind because culturally they don't get it. Culturally, they're top down. Culturally, they're not collecting the data. Culturally, they don't have the executives to do the analysis. Culturally, they're stuck in silos and there's no inter-firm communication. So how the hell is a firm like that going to leapfrog without cleaning house? It's really, really, really difficult. Since the article was written in 2009, this article was not written in 2009. This article was written in 2013. What is the current? I've already said this. We're almost at it's necessary. We're almost at this is table stakes. Certain cutting edge firms, it's hard to find a firm that's not doing some of this now. The article mentions established companies and their success with analytics. What are some younger companies that are using analytics just as well as older companies? I think the younger companies have distinct advantages. The younger companies were born in the Web 2.0 bottom-up world. They, by definition, are a flatter organization with less silos. They have all-hands meetings once a week. There isn't decades of historical culture that need to be broken in order for this analytics to start permeating through the firm. What does 3.0 emphasize? You mean, what doesn't it emphasize? It's knowledge, okay? We are using data to create and make better decisions. That's it. It sounds basic, but that's it. We've never had the ability to do this the way we can now before. How can you expect consumers to change when management within an organization cannot even contemplate or even attempt to entertain the idea of changing their mindsets or approach? How does one work with such narrow-minded individuals who resist change, yet expect others internally and externally to react to the spot? Act on the spot to change. Yeah, this is very difficult. How do you get a non-market-oriented firm to wake up? Well, usually most of the time they wake up when they go Chapter 11. Or most of the time when they were number 1 and they get passed to number 2. They basically have to fail before all assumptions get thrown out the window and they'll try anything. One of these articles, I think it was the self-tuning article. Let me see. No, let me try the 3.0. One of these talked about starting off with small groups, like basically it is this one. It is the 3.0 article. And I am back on page 70 again. Cross-disciplinary data teams. Small groups. insurgent teams basically. And you use these to permeate these very fixed silos that are happening within the firm. The best way to do it, though, is if you get a C-suite executive or the board to really make this change happen. What is the best way for a company to optimize and utilize it to reap the most benefits? I think that's what this article is about. If anything, I would go back to the first article. And we got steps 1, 2, and 3. I think that answers this question. Which industries will be most impacted by Analytics 3.0? Who will benefit the most? I tell you, we used to be able to say industries. And we used to be able to say industries that had clickstream data. But now, when we have Internet of Things and we have the ability to make the non-digital digital, mechanical aircraft engines, we had these articles 2 weeks ago on what GE is doing, and they are putting all these sensors on the engine that provide real-time data. I'm trying to think of which industries won't be impacted. I'm really having a harder time, Anytime we can make the digital non-digital. Every time we can make the non-digital digital, then we can start talking about analytics. Big data is still very popular and for many organizations remains a challenge they're struggling to overcome. Should these organizations skip 2 and go to 3? There isn't a 2 then 3. They're the same thing. I think we already mentioned that. Are there any specific industries that would be more impacted? Okay, answered that. Any industries that will not be impacted or less impacted by it? The ones that are least impacted by data analytics are firms that are highly regulated. Okay. Law, medicine, government, to some extent, education. These are the industries that are least impacted by bottom-up thinking, cultures, data, you name it. All right. Self-tuning enterprise. All right. It's a good one. Now, I don't necessarily believe in complete automation. And with a title such as the Self-Tuning Enterprise, these authors make it seem like, set it and forget it. Okay? Usually what happens is we use analytics to come up with heuristics or rules of thumb. And these rules of thumb then get automated. But we use the analytics to first uncover this data effect, a heuristic, a rule of thumb. And then we implement A/B. We take 10% of the data and we try it with them. And we leave 90% alone, traditional. We look at the difference of the effects. Then we go from 10 to 90, and then we'll go to 25-75, then we'll go to 50-50, and then we'll say, yeah, this effect is clear, this effect is clear, this effect is clear, and then we'll automate it. Companies like Google, Amazon, and Alibaba are heavily invested in machine learning. You bet they are. How will machine learning is another way of saying analytics, business intelligence, big data. These are all just buzzwords, okay? How will all this stuff force marketing to evolve? And should it matter? Yes, it should matter because marketing has been doing too much of this article staying in their swim lanes. I want ROI. Could it eliminate certain jobs or job functions? Sure it could. I think the way traditional top-down media is bought and sold, all that could be automated. Really. Media planning and media buying in the scope of marketing and the scope of Manhattan is starting to... Is Alibaba marketing style? Is Alibaba's marketing style applicable to all the growing companies? Sure. Anyone that has a heavy data stream that interested in making changes in testing, sure. I don't think anything I've said today would change what I think. Instead of saying Netflix, Google, or Amazon, right? Add Alibaba to that equation. I don't see Alibaba as any different. Alibaba is a very forward-looking company. One of the barriers of existing firms adopting these types of approaching is cost or perceived cost. You cannot staff or execute these strategies if you're not staffed to support the old existing models. Is there a cost percentage budget resource that will be established with taking an existing organization to traditional approaches to these? With the same time period, there's a reasonable expectation that results cannot start to be recognized. All right, so you're a company, and your company is named Ford. And Ford does not have the culture, the org structure, the knowledge, or the employees to do machine learning. So what do? They hire IBM. They hired Hewlett Packard. They hire the professor from UCLA. And if you hire IBM, then you're paying probably 1/10 what you would pay if you were to do it internally. At some point, you'll transition to doing it internally. Okay, hold on one sec. I gotta pause. As self-tuning algorithms are proposed as the answer for keeping up with unpredictable markets, does this idea eliminate the concept of business benefiting from co-creation using user-generated content? No, not at all. Not at all. Because where do you think the clickstream data comes from? It comes from users. Okay? If you want to talk about this in terms of finance, for my finance majors here in class, all right, all those firms in Jersey City, the Flash Boys, the quant jocks, okay, they're using actual human trades to build their algorithm to do the automated trades, okay? And then based on the results of the automated trades, they will look at new consumer trade data and they will tweak their automated model. I think it's co-creation cubed. Okay? I really do. With the rapid advancement of technology constantly changing business operations is, depending on the algorithm, truly sustainable and reliable process for business. Well, what I want to make sure, truly sustainable, the algorithm is never static. I am not kidding. When Google created their algorithm, at one point they were tweaking it 150 times a year, right? 150 times they would change the algorithm when you go to google.com and do a search. 150 times a year. That was 6, 8, 10 years ago. Now they change it over 600 times a year, which means multiple times per day that search algorithm gets tweaked. So yes, if you have the mentality of a Google or a Netflix or an Alibaba, it is truly sustainable because that's how you do business. That's what you do. If you are one of these technology finance firms in Jersey City, that's what you do. You trade. And you use the data to improve things going forward. You use the data to create an equation. Then you use the data to keep the equation fresh. The article mentions how culture remains generally flat in an organization, along with systems and process. Wouldn't these things change as organizations are continually adapting and growing? Well, you need a culture of what? Learning. You need a culture of MO. You need a culture of CRM. You need a culture of bottom up. Otherwise, you're never going to have the organization to do this stuff. Has Alibaba continued? Yes, they have. Alibaba is a monster. They've gone public. They've done very, very well since going public. How would you leverage this information within a small business? Can this be allowed? Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. There are small analytics packages that you can buy. There are small equations that you can do and test and experiment with. It doesn't have to be that. If not, you just hire an agency. That's all. Is this self-tuning model really applicable to all engineers? Should only be focused on okay. Now, I think I answered this question already. If there is a data stream, then yes, it's applicable. And now that we have the Internet of Things, it's pretty tough to find industries that are not impacted about this in one way, shape, or form. I mean, manufacturing's going full tilt into this. Manufacturing used to be a mechanical process with assisted machinery. And now the machinery is providing the data stream to be able to tweak the manufacturing process. What are the drawbacks of implementing this self-tuning approach to a company? The drawbacks: time, money, resources. It's not easy, difficult, challenging. That's the drawbacks. The upsides is it's truly a way for you to stay ahead of the competition. Do these systems ever fail? You bet they fail. Google, Microsoft Cortana fails. Google, Amazon, Alexa fails. Google Siri fails. Google Waze fails. How qualitative is the research going to shaping? How qualitative? Yes, they fail. Yes, there's qualitative. I'm not sure I get the second half of this question. Amazon and eBay are successful e-commerce companies in the U.S. marketplace. Amazon has been self-tuning in recent years. Since they were created. But eBay seems not to have changed. Why? Okay. eBay... Amazon is just more, this is a bias, okay? And the bias is Amazon is a bigger company. They're in the news more frequently. Amazon has more verticals. eBay is a company that the auction business is not nearly as big as a business as retail is. But eBay is a very good company. They use data. They use algorithms. They use this information to not only find out data about listings, but how to change listings and see what people like about listings. And eBay's very much ahead of the curve compared to a lot of other companies out there. What would be the challenges for Easygon Company in the next 5 to 10 years? Well, we're going to have, in the spirit of this, okay, we're going to have more data streams, in the next couple of years. We're going to have consumer behavior that changes even faster than it's changing now. Okay? That's the big one. All right. Last one. We have Professor Javier here talking about branding. We like branding. Don't let the big data bury your brand. We already started getting into this conversation a little bit, but pretty solid article too. Can too much of a data-driven tactics hurt a company's reputation, such as over-personalization of ads or walking that fine line of respecting consumer privacy? It could. If you go back to our CRM module, where the data-driven marketing tactics didn't create more value, we just had better tools to spam you, then yeah, that's the line. That's the hard part. Usually the firms that are too data-driven are spending less time co-creating. If you spend more time co-creating, then you'll have less of a concern that you're talking about here. The article cites Pets.com as having disastrously pushed towards branding while neglecting sales. Can you discuss what happened? Well, it's easy what happened. This was during the Web 1.0 era. They raised X number of hundreds of millions of dollars to create the first online pet store because they thought they needed first mover advantage and they wanted to be the first online pet store. They thought mailing you a 50-pound bag of dog food was a good thing. All right? So they spent their venture capital money on Super Bowl ads and a heavy rotation of traditional media to create brand awareness. So what they didn't do was use their venture money to do analytics to see how can we add value to our co-created relationships. They did traditional one-way branding. And guess what? There wasn't enough business to sustain Pets.com. Pets.com was one of the biggest 1.0 flameouts. The biggest one was Webvan. That was oh my God, that was billions of dollars in venture capital money went poof, and it went up quickly. Is there a specific target ration of branding versus sale that can be used as a target, or is it completely dependent upon? It's really dependent on not only industry and environment, it's really dependent upon the firm. I mean, if you have a brand that's already well established, you can probably do more analytics versus branding. If you have a brand that the brand is not established, you better spend a decent amount of time doing brand building. You know. Now, that said, we just talked about Pets.com. All right. In here, the brand building, they did no analytics. They just did brand building. And they thought the brand building would drive all revenue. No. They spend more time on creating very, very unique and slick ads. And you can go to YouTube and see the Pets.com's ads. They actually were very, very good ads. But once you went to Pets.com and maybe you made a transaction, you might have not made another transaction after that because there wasn't enough value for you to go back. They didn't tell you what's in it for you. Is there a specific target? Okay, we just did that one. What is the CMO's main duty, and why has it become more difficult to achieve today? Oh boy. Now, some of this we talked about last week, and this was the article that I wrote with Locander. You know, most CMOs are top-down alpha dogs. You know, they did something really successful at some firm. They got hired into a CMO role that someone said, okay, do your magic. I don't know what it is, but you must know, guru guy, guru person, guru whoever you are, do it. And usually what happens is they switch firms, and what they did at one firm, the market conditions and the products and the competitor, it's different, and they're never going to have that same success level again. You know? The CMO needs to be more of a theory why, in my opinion. They need to be more of a coach, a mentor, and they need to co-create with the crowd. And unfortunately, most CMOs have too much of an ego, and they're too alpha theory X to do that. Has big data worsened business today, and what can a CMO do to control the situation? Well, don't fight it, use it. Oh, why did I do that? Okay, hold on. Sorry about that. Theory X CMOs will fight it. Theory Y CMO will use that wind at their back and co-create with the crowd. Why should big data not be used to focus solely on near-term results at the expense of building and protecting the brand? Simple. Big data is not a quick process. In multiple articles and conversations we've already had on this video, it takes time to perfect the algorithm, to do self-tuning, to do that A/B testing. You know, near-term results is 3 months. I already told you that you probably can't do something in 3 months with big data. So couponing and discounting and giving away, you know, that's all short-term results that will make the revenue number change at the expense of long-term strategy. What would be some other good examples of companies like Subways who are really using big data and analytics most effectively? Tesla. I mean, how do you come up with autopilot without data? You know, we can go through, pick an industry. We'll pick one. Look, I just found a scratch-off lottery ticket. You think they use big data? Oh, absolutely, positively, yes. I mean, this is odds and probability. Okay? This is big data by default. You know? How effective are e-newsletters and postal mail newsletter versus postal mail newsletters? Oh my gosh. When the dynamics between human-driven and data-driven is so different. How can we bring back the balance to shape marketing guides, physical mailing, and digital mailings? I don't know what to say here, okay? I really don't know what to say here. This could disappear completely. I really think that if this left the marketer's toolbox, it would be a good thing. Environmentally, CSR-wise, postal mail newsletters, not only expensive, not only are difficult to share, not only is there no historical being able to go back and link to, oh my God, you're talking about paper and, the ability to have a dynamic digital newsletter versus one that no. What is the best approach for a company to maintain that balance between branding and data analytics? We've already gone through this a number of ways. I don't think we have to rehash that. What are the must-have capabilities to experience for the CMO and big? Well, the number one must-have, we said, it's culture. You need to have the right mindset. Go back to our CRM discussions. Okay? You have a friend that's an asshole, and Facebook don't make them any less of an asshole. Facebook does not fix their assholeness. Well, guess what? A CMO cannot fix someone's culture if they have the wrong culture for this type of thinking. If the company is not interested in learning, period, then the conversation is pretty much over. Doesn't make any difference what effects you're going to find out of the algorithm. No one's going to be like, How can a business utilize big data as a guide to understand consumer brand demands? Well, that's what these articles... How can younger employees battle the propensity to rely on analytics in their decision making? This is an interesting question. Younger employees might have a bias or a higher propensity to trust the data more than others. However, younger employees should be smart about it, and they should not say that the data stream is absolute truth. This data stream are interesting findings that need to be tested going forward. It's a good way to wrap up. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your energy. Next time we meet, we will be in person.